This Notebook LM video explores how the Council of Nicaea reshaped Christianity, transforming the shepherd flock metaphor from care into control. After 325 CE, when Christianity aligned with Rome, followers were expected to obey rather than participate equally. This shift marked a turning point. The nurturing shepherd metaphor became a tool of submission.
Today, we're diving into a really powerful and honestly pretty provocative idea. What happens when a movement that's all about personal connection and care suddenly becomes a massive global institution? We're going to look at how a simple metaphor, a shepherd and a sheep, became the center of a huge critique of institutional power, one that people are still talking about today. It really all kicks off with this single sentence. Jesus's sheep were treated like cattle by post-Nicene hierarchical religion. Wow. I mean, that is a heavy charge, right? It suggests a total betrayal of an original idea, a shift from looking after individuals to just managing a herd. And that phrase, post-Nicene, that's our big clue. It points to the time right after the famous Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, which, as we'll see, was a massive turning point. So let's really break this down. So to really get what this critique is saying, you have to understand the two sides of this metaphor. Look at this. On the left, you've got the whole idea of a shepherd sheep. Each one is known by name, they're valued, they're protected, it's personal. But then you look to the right, a farmer's cattle. It's just a managed herd, a controlled commodity. They're not individuals, they're an asset for an institution. The difference is just night and day, and it's absolutely key to the entire argument. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Before all the controversy, what did this metaphor of the shepherd and his flock actually mean in the first place? You know, in its original context, this metaphor was really powerful. Jesus is called the Good Shepherd. But here's the thing. This wasn't about demanding blind obedience from a flock. It was all about a leader who shows this profound personal care and guidance for his followers, the sheep. The whole idea was built on this deep personal relationship, not on some kind of institutional power structure. So that raises a really big question, doesn't it? If the original idea was all about this incredible personal care and protection, what on earth happened? What could possibly change that would completely flip the script on this entire relationship? And that, my friends, brings us to the great turning point. This is the moment when this small, often persecuted faith became an official part of the most powerful institution on earth, the Roman Empire. Just look at how fast this all happened. For almost 300 years, you have these small, decentralized communal churches. But then, bam, in 325 AD, the Roman emperor himself, Constantine, is overseeing the Council of Nicaea to standardize everything. And then just 55 years after that, a single lifetime really, it becomes the official state religion of the entire empire. This fusion of church and state, well, it changed absolutely everything. So, with this new imperial status, came a new problem. A loose network of house churches just isn't going to work when you're the religion of an empire. The organization had to change, and it went from being kind of a grassroots movement to a very rigid top-down pyramid. And this comparison here really lays it all out. The early church was, for the most part, pretty egalitarian. There was this idea that all believers were part of a royal priesthood. But the post-Nicene church, whoa, it became super hierarchical, super stratified. A hard line was drawn between the clergy and everyone else, the laity. And authority, which was once shared, now became exclusive to a select few. So where did this new pyramid structure even come from? Well, they pretty much copied the homework of the Roman government itself. The church's new hierarchy started to look a whole lot like the empire's governing model. And ministry, well, it became less of a local calling and much more of a professional career, with a clear path for advancement, just like a Roman official climbing the ladder. The church was literally rebuilding itself in the image of the empire. Okay, so we have this new top-down structure. What did that actually mean for the average person, the regular follower? How did their place in the community change? Well, their role was fundamentally diminished. They were kind of repositioned from being active participants to just being passive recipients of doctrine. The very term laity was defined by what it wasn't, not ordained. Suddenly, you were subordinate to this professional class of clergy who were seen as the necessary middlemen to God. For a lot of people, their core duties got boiled down to a pretty simple formula: pray, pay, and obey. And this is where we come full circle, right back to our central metaphor. That image of the sheep was completely reframed. It was no longer about being personally known and cared for. Instead, it became a tool, a way to reinforce being submissive to the institution's authority. The clergy were now the shepherds, and the job of the sheep was simply to obey. Okay, so we've traced this huge historical shift, but that was all a long, long time ago. Why does this critique still feel so relevant? Why does this matter today? Because its legacy is this incredible, timeless tension. It's the conflict between the personal, organic spirit of a movement and the demands that come with institutional control. And that's really the heart of the critique, the risk that any large organization, religious or not, can start to prioritize its own power and structure over the actual well-being of the people inside it. And that leaves us with a really provocative question, one that applies to just about any movement, not just a religion. When a grassroots cause grows up and becomes a powerful institution, is it inevitable that its original spirit, that original spark, will be compromised? Is it destined to change? It's a huge question and definitely one worth thinking about. Thanks for watching.